All righty.
Okay, so as you know, I see a lot of familiar faces in here. I'm sure you're all well aware that we're on a continuum. In the spring, we were in step 1. Now we're in step 2 of moving towards full enrollment every day in school. And we're starting our year, as you know, in the step 2 process, and we're hoping within a few weeks to move to step 3 if all goes well in the start. Do you want to shift, Matt, or add anything? Yes, so is this you or me?
This is me. Just to make sure we reiterate, our plan for reopening is a plan for just that, reopening. It's not a plan for the semester or trimester. The split attendance model is just a way to get us started, and we've committed to revisiting that split attendance concept after 3 weeks. We're committed to opening our schools in the safest and highest quality learning experience possible.
And again, we just want to remind folks, this is a nice quote we found from a school in a different district, and just to remind folks that this is a community effort, and when you're out and about with your family or your friends, wherever you go, just to remind people that for this to work, for us to move into step 3, for us everywhere to move beyond the pandemic, we need to work together. And there's a few things you've been hearing us say over and over that we need people to do in order for us to have a strong start and to stay safe and healthy, and that's to wash our hands, wear a mask, practice social distancing, definitely staying home when you're sick, and only traveling when it's necessary. During the past few weeks, the teachers have been in the building, and we're going to share some of the new information as a result of the work they've been doing. And this is just a brief list of some of the tasks we've been doing in the past few weeks with teachers, any one of which could take quite a bit of time. Teachers and staff have been working really, really hard, and they're going to continue to work hard right up until the 8th and beyond. We've been doing all sorts of things like rewriting our curriculum, recreating our schedules, bringing on new people at the same time. A lot of work, a lot of effort. It's been productive and positive.
So we just wanted to, over the last couple of weeks, we've spent quite a bit of time thinking about and articulating our plans for arrival. And I know this is something that we do get quite a few questions about when people call the office. And so if you are dropping off your student, you'll pull right up to a set of cones. Someone will greet you, take the student's temperature. If possible, we'll try and grab the temperature with the student in the car. But if there's multiple kids in the car, we might just have folks come on out of the car and take their temperature. We'll ask a few questions. We'll try and publish those questions this week. It would be great. We're going to publish a link, and it would be great as you're coming up the hill to start clicking away. If you do have a web-enabled smartphone, start clicking away at those questions so we can speed things along. All students will enter through the middle level entrance, high school and middle level. Students who are arriving on the bus will get screened before they get on the bus. They're going to have a separate entrance further down on the middle level wing. And all students, high school or middle level, will go directly to their TA classroom. We're going to send home a detailed step-by-step instructions for each type of student that is entering the building, whether it's someone riding their bike or walking, dropping off, student drivers. We're going to send all that information home so you don't have to commit it to memory right here, right now. You'll see an email next week.
I know a lot of people are really curious and anxious about the details of the schedule. There's a lot of information on this slide, and we are recording this so you can come back and look at it. But basically, in the high school, you'll be in period 1 for the morning on the first day, and period 2 in the afternoon. And Matt, if you want to go to the next slide, I'm just going to hone in on, we'll get a little bit closer view of what that looks like. During your period when you're in high school, or your child's time when they're in person, so if you take a look at the green column, if your child or you are in the green cohort and you're a high school student, you're going to be in your period 1 class for at least 2 hours and 45 minutes. And during that time, you'll be doing some work, direct work with the teacher, direct instruction. Some of that time will be working with the students who are home remotely with the teacher and the students that are in the room. And some of that time will be what we call flex time, where students will be doing individual things. They'll be working with the teacher individually or on other work. I just want to point out one thing too. If you are in the gold cohort and on Monday you're at home, you will be checking in with your period 1 class. On the schedule here, it's specified as 9:15, and teachers may decide they need to meet earlier in the day remotely with students, and they will make that abundantly clear through updates in Schoology. And but the idea here I'm trying to express is that students will be expected to check in with their teachers when they're remote. There will be time set for them to do that by their teachers. There will also be opportunities to do that flexibly during those flex times that you can see on the schedule. And they will also be expected to do work and turn in work on their remote days. And if you look at the Wednesday, the gray column, students will be in TA, and also they'll be potentially called back or have the opportunity to reach out to teachers during flex times that you can see on the schedule there. So there is an expectation and some clarity around when students can expect to be connected with their teachers when they're remote. I want to jump to the next one, Matt. And again, back to the big schedule here. As you know, half the students come on Monday and Thursday, the other half come on Tuesday and Friday. And whether you're a green and gold group, email should go out midday today about that in the high school. I know in the middle school you already know. In the high school they know what courses they're taking, they just don't know if they're green or gold. And we finally have that finalized, and it will go out later this morning.
All right, so for the PAML schedule, our situation with our schedule has been much less dynamic than the high school, so no new news to share here. And similar as Phil, students in the gold cohort will be in person on Tuesday. There is still an expectation on Tuesday that students who are remote attend TA at 8:30 virtually. We've got a system set up for that, as well as all other days. I'm not going to spend too much time going into our schedule and expectations for remote learning. Just like some of the other information, we're going to push that out to you in an email so that you can kind of focus and read. I think if I started to describe all of the scheduling and systems, I think we'd all get pretty confused pretty quick. But our schedule really looks very similar to what it normally does in a typical situation. Students still have 45 minutes of expos and 45 minutes of PE wellness each day. And I'm just so thankful that our schedule came together so smoothly. So for communication purposes, at this point, now that our teachers are back in the building, and and Schoology is for the most part up and running. I know Melissa Gillen was putting the finishing touches on it the other day. It is a good idea to log into Schoology. If you need help, please call the office. Check the updates pages. Teachers are getting going on those. And students should be checking their email. Teachers are really eager to reach out, and we should start to see communication coming directly from the classroom teachers. So Schoology and email. Just wanted to let everybody know we hosted 3 family and student meetings yesterday with our different TA teachers. It was at 11:30, and I realized a lot of people weren't able to attend. We recorded those, and we're going to get those out on our news and announcements page today. I'd encourage you to check those out. We have a lot of new faces and a lot of new people to meet at the middle level. So this is just a little more.
Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Just in terms of those communications at the high school level, you can anticipate direct contact from your students' teachers. Each teacher will be sending out an individual message about what to expect, how to connect with them, etc. But we're at the high school, because there's so many different courses with different types of expectations, it's going to be individualized. So you can anticipate 3 to 4 emails from staff within the next week about what to expect at high school at the course level.
So these little tables here that I'm sharing should look pretty familiar. This is the system that we used to schedule our virtual TAs and our academic check-ins in the spring. We're going to use this type of system again. So all the student has to do and all the family has to do is just have the different documents up, click the link, and that'll take you right to where the video conferences are. We're going to have separate schedules for split remote days and Wednesdays. So there'll be 2 documents to work off of. Like I said, we're going to get this in an email to you so you don't have to sort of store all this information that I'm going through quickly right now. So same thing with the fully remote Wednesdays. I anticipate we'll also have a all school community meeting like we did in the spring each week.
We wanted to, go ahead.
We just want to remind everybody that we are, there are a few people missing from our buildings this year, and we just wanted to make sure that it was clear that those people were working fully remotely with the LSCVA, and we're so thankful that those folks were willing to do that. They have to take 9 academic credits in order to become a VTVLC virtual instructor, which is a lot of work on top of planning for their remote teaching responsibilities. So we're so thankful that Bill Fischel, Elizabeth Emerson, Moira Donovan, and Kim Laidlaw were able to fulfill those really important roles for us.
So we're going to move into the question portion of the presentation, and we're going to respond to the questions that were sent to us this time. Just a reminder that there's a lot of other questions answered in previous recordings, and you can always reach out to us if we don't get to your question today. This question here is about masks, and yes, disposable masks are okay, as well as the cloth masks, and I'll use this opportunity to remind people, or just let you know if you don't already know, that the neck gaiters, the tubes, those are not sufficient enough for school. You need to have a mask like this. They're much more effective. The neck gaiters, because of the type of material and the way they fit on your face, are not as efficient. So hopefully that's not a problem for folks. And I just also wanted to know that there is an expectation that students wear their mask, as well as staff, whenever they're inside the building. And if they don't, or there's a refusal, we're going to go through our normal disciplinary process to address that. And we do have a restorative process and a PBIS in the middle school, and we'll do what we can, but students will be expected and will need to wear a mask during school.
Um, so schedules, and this question seems to get at sort of the, the sort of how much communication is coming through us about what's happening in VTVLC. Schedules generated by PA and PAML do not include any information about students attending LSCVA. All of that is going to come directly through them. Mairead Harris is the program administrator, and families enrolled in LSCVA should hear should hear from her. And if you need to get in touch with her, please let us know. It's actually funny, as I'm reading this now for the third or fourth time, I'm thinking that maybe this person could also be wondering about classes or check-ins on remote days. And I think I went into that a little bit earlier, that our staff and our buildings will be communicating to families about how to connect with their teachers on remote days.
So we've fielded a lot of questions over the past few weeks about food and the meal process. This question is about how can I get refunded if I'm not attending school? And you can just reach out directly to our food director, Jeff Brin. His email and contact is on the website, but just reach out directly to him as the food service director, and he'll help you out with that. And let's all hope that we are back in the gym this winter, spending our extra cash on food at the Booster Shack.
So how many masks? It's actually a good question. I would say at minimum 2. Students should have a mask that they're wearing, and an extra is probably a really good idea. We are working, to have, plenty of masks around for anybody who needs them, whether it's an extra or if they just don't have one. We have plenty on hand right now, and we're just looking to make that sustainable, both financially and just, from a resource, just having this stuff perspective. So yeah, I'd say 2. It's my best guess.
This is about the cohorts, and kind of how does it work from day to day. Matt addressed a bunch of that during the earlier part of the presentation. Students at PMI will have daily TA and opportunities to check in with their other teachers, regardless of whether they're remote or in person. And at high school, the opportunity exists during those flex times. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be specific times where teachers will be expecting students to check in with them who are remote. Not every day and not exactly the same time, but anticipate that to be really clearly articulated by the teachers.
Yeah, and I would just add that, I think this question seems to be wondering, is it the same people that are connecting remotely and in person? And the answer for PAML, the answer is yes. We have these planning blocks for teachers, and they'll be using some of their planning time to connect with students remotely every day. Or the students will have the opportunity to connect every day. Teachers will be expected 2 out of the 4 days for in-person instruction. They'll be expected to connect with students remotely.
And that's also true for high school during the periods that you can see on the schedule.
So this question is about ventilation. And at PAML, each room is outfitted with a unit ventilator that has the capacity to bring in and filter 100% outside air. And also this summer, we increased the airflow capacity by switching our exhaust dampers out for exhaust fans. That just actually happened a couple weeks ago. And so we have, more than adequate ventilation in the middle level. And at PA, they've brought in, Brian calls them external air scrubbers that move air throughout the rooms and have a filtering capacity as well. The second part of this question was about this grant opportunity that that's been talked about at the state level. $6.5 million spread out across the whole state for HVAC projects ends up being not a tremendous amount of money, and so we have not yet received funds to that program, but we are looking forward to every bit of help we can get in increasing our HVAC system or improving our HVAC system.
This question is about before school. It's specific to the bus stop, and it does make sense for parents to stay with their students until they get on the bus, until they've been screened, and that's true if they if you're dropping off at school. Please don't just let your student hop out of the car and run over to a screener. It's important that you stay with your children until they pass the screening. If that's not possible, hopefully you can come up with a contingency plan in case your child does have a fever or has some other symptoms where we have to ask them not to come to school that day. Certainly not something we want to do, but this is one of those years where, as much as we encourage you to develop independence in your children, stay with them until they pass the screening. And please do not send walkers to school who you haven't checked at home to make sure they're going to pass the screening when they get to school.
Okay. So yes, bikers and walkers are certainly allowed. We're going to have a specific spot for walkers and bikers to get screened. I think this comes up in one of the next questions, but one of the things we really want to be careful is not so much coming to school, but leaving school. It's just really important that we help our kids. Please help us reiterate to students not to loiter outside of the entrances.
We lost you, Matt. This question is specific to high school, and yes, we will be continuing driver's ed this fall and spring, and in fact, we have completed last spring's driver's ed this summer. Our driver's ed teacher, you can see him there with his hand on the tire, Steve Hudak. He's been our teacher for a while now. It was a school counselor and English teacher, awesome teacher. He used up a lot of his time this summer working with students who were not able to drive in the spring, and we've been able to get those students their hours and been able to have them finish the course so they can go get their license. It's really important to us to be able to fulfill that need for driver's ed. It's having the capacity to be able to drive and get around in the state is really important to access to different resources. So we along with the state have put together a really safe process for continuing driver's ed. It looks a little different, like everything else has in the past, but it has worked so far. It's been really successful, and we're going to continue that process through the fall.
Same question before, just I added this again, just please help us reiterate to the students how important it is to exit the building and head right to their destination. I think this is one of the areas where I see the potential for students to congregate in ways that we wouldn't want them to. So please help us direct students to leave the building immediately.
This question again is about the screening, and I wonder if the question has to do with if my child screens at home and answers yes to any of the questions, should they not go to school, and that would be correct. And if they answer yes to any of the screening questions that deal with you have symptoms or have you been exposed to somebody with COVID, the screener will say you need to go home and consult with your physician, your doctor. So again, we need to be really diligent with that screening process, and let's all work together at not sending anyone to school who we know is not going to pass the screening.
Okay, so this question is about our enhanced cleaning procedures. I actually ran into Brian Rafferty, our facilities director, in the hall, and I used the word fogging. And when I was talking to him, and he corrected me, and it's actually electrostatic misting. And I think the electrostatic piece is really important, because what this machine, it emits charged particles that are designed to stick to surfaces. And so the mist is not designed to be emitted and linger in the air. It's designed to stick to surfaces and get into all the nooks and crannies. This is a machine that has been used in the district before during times of higher than normal illness. And the only difference is now we are using it nightly. Every single night, each room that has students in it will get this electrostatic misting, and this machine ensures that the disinfectant gets on all the surfaces that are around the room. We spent quite a bit of time actually talking about this and making sure our rooms are set up in a way that allows this machine to work as best as possible.
This is another question about how the remote learning is going to work, in particular how it's going to work when your child's at home. I'm going to let Matt speak to the middle school part of that again in just a moment, and I will just mention a little bit about the high school. You will be getting a copy of that bell schedule that I alluded to earlier in the presentation. It's actually going to be emailed home again today with the green and gold cohorts. And students will have access to their teachers every day. During their periods when they're remote, there will be a specific time set for them to connect with their teacher and their classmates who are actually in person. And that will be specific to each course and won't necessarily happen every day. But they will have access to their teachers every day, including Wednesday. And the schedule that you will see that will first be emailed home to your student today will show you the times on Wednesdays where students can connect with specific period teachers. And you will also be getting a direct email contact, or in some cases phone calls from your children's teachers explaining any specifics to their course.
And for the middle level, I said most of it before. We're going to generate those documents via email that has just all of the remote schedules. All you have to do is click a link at the right time. Teachers will be available for half-hour check-ins on the 4 in-person days, and then more frequently on the fully remote Wednesday. The other thing I just wanted to add, 2 things. Was that I actually forgot, but we worked really hard this week. I remember the one thing. We worked really hard this week on, I'm smiling under here if you can't see it, on sort of effective practices for remote instruction. And I think the idea of a self-paced asynchronous remote work is really what we're shooting for. We'll have a handful of live opportunities from time to time in terms of delivering new content for remote students, but predominantly you can expect pre-recorded lessons and videos that are aligned with tasks. Teachers are eager to connect with students remotely. And we've got a really good system that we're ready to share with you next week.
Is this mine or is this yours, Matt?
I'll take it. Oh, right. This question sort of talks about, a lot how the guidance seems to suggest that kids will be sitting down for extended period of times. The PAML schedule is set up with much more, time for recess and other types of movement throughout the day than it ever has. Our teachers are, all really well set up with clipboards and Crazy Creek chairs so that they can conduct learning outside. And I think also as we get into this, especially in a split attendance model with some of our classrooms, only having, between, eight students in them, there is opportunities, in those low density classrooms to move around the room. When there's that few students in the room, it's not necessary. Once we get used to, practicing, 6 foot distance, it's not necessary for students to be planted at their desks, for hours on end.
You may, if you have students in both schools, you may notice that there's different start time to the actual classes. A lot of middle school kids will be in school by 8 o'clock and before 8 o'clock. At high school, we do want to start our coursework at 8 o'clock. We want to maximize the amount of time we have with students when we have them. Because we are splitting the day into two cohorts, we want to, again, maximize the amount of time we have with students. We also anticipate moving to more transitions when we shift from step 2 to step 3. And in that case, that extra half hour is going to be even more important when we have 4 classes a day, where students are in 4 different cohorts. So we want to begin practicing right from the get-go, arriving and being in school at 8 o'clock. And again, it is to maximize the time that we do have with students. And just to go back to the previous slide, that most of what Matt said is also true for high school. We will be building in lots of breaks, chances to move around, and teachers are planning diligently about how to go about their work outside for as long as they can.
And for me, just to add on the 8 o'clock piece, I think what Phil was saying about, making some changes as we transition from step 2 to step 3, if and when that happens. The purpose of spreading our arrival out from 7:30 to 8:30 is so that, we just have time to screen everybody. And should we find out that we don't need that much time, we'll be looking at some adjustments at the middle level as we move between steps 2 and 3. I think this is me. So I think we already went over this in quite a bit. So for students who are on the green cohort, their first day of in-person instruction is September 10th. We are still hopeful and expecting that those students will attend with us on September 8th. And we'll do that remotely. Their ability to do that in a lot of cases hinges on a device pickup, which has gone on almost every day this week. And if you didn't get a chance to pick up your device, please call the PAML or PA office, and we can set that up for next week. So it will be important that students have their devices for September 8th, especially if they're in the green cohort. And we'll be pushing out detailed plans for how to connect to virtual TA and academic check-ins next week. So that's the end of the questions. And we didn't have that thank you closing slide this week, but we're going to follow the same format. We'll push out via Bright Arrow an invitation for a next meeting, an opportunity to submit more questions. And later next week, we'll schedule this again. So thank you, everybody.
Matt,
go ahead, Phil.
Matt, there was a question in the chat about fifth grade. Do fifth graders get their device later on in school, right?
So the fifth grade, what we are waiting on for fifth grade is iPad cases. They were back ordered. And as soon as they land here in the building, I'm hoping for Monday, we're going to email all fifth grade families and invite everybody to come in and pick up those devices. We're really, really hopeful that we can get those out to fifth graders before September 8th. And I think we will be able to do that. Thank you, everybody. So same format for next week. Keep the questions coming. This is, I think a really effective way to do this, and we appreciate everybody chiming in with us.
Matt, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I think we had about 30 parents.
Yeah. I think that's normal, right?
It's a little less than usual, but I think it's partly because there's more information. A lot of information's been shared already.
Yeah.
And maybe people are just watching the recordings. But the number was a little misleading because I did see a lot of staff on there.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, so when you're in your office, it's really hard to see your face.
Yeah.
And I wonder if even when you moved, I wonder if you want to I don't know if you can get a light or something.
This.
Anyway, just
is it better?
That is better, but you still look can you see your image?
See me?
You still look like you're I don't know, almost like you're in a cell or something. I think you want to get something that puts light on your face. See, I look at the windows on me, so anyway, I think it's the least of your worries right now. Just a little, oh, that's good. Now we're talking. Now I can read your hat.